I just finished watching the Uncharted movie, and I have some thoughts. I feel like a lot of the different reviewers I've seen that are posting videos about this are not really fans of the games, they're movie critics. So I wanted to talk about this more from the direction of somebody who has beaten all the games again and again, who's experienced this as I grew up and enjoyed the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation 4, and now the PlayStation 5 remakes. I want to talk about what they did right and what I feel like they got very, very wrong. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and these are my brutally honest thoughts about the Uncharted movie. Now, first and foremost, let's begin with what is definitely the strangest decision of this, which is the casting itself. Mark Wahlberg playing Sully, and obviously the very titular Spider-Man playing freaking Nathan Drake, a very young Nathan Drake. Now, in general, I feel like everybody acted pretty decently. I feel like these people are not unskilled. They took the roles seriously. It just looks really strange. Nathan Drake, for the most part, as he's existed thus far in the video games, is very much a suave badass. He's the guy who always has a witty one-liner, an epic takedown, or some ability to solve that next grand ancient puzzle. This feels very strange to have a Nathan Drake that's only like 25 years old. Now, additionally, this is going to sound like the strangest problem ever, but it's very, very apparent that they filmed this in between other movies. Now, what I mean by that is Tom Holland, obviously, he plays Spider-Man, as I mentioned. Now, this is a Sony production. Sony worked on Spider-Man and this probably simultaneously. He is huge in this. Like, straight up, I know that right now Tom Holland's still a pretty young guy. He's got a pretty slender frame. He is as jacked as you physically can be. And Mark Wahlberg, he's actually pretty much a casual bodybuilder. Mark Wahlberg sells, like, workout tapes and stuff. Like, these dudes are huge. Throughout the course of this, there is a lot of hand-to-hand combat. Pretty much nobody really fires guns except the bad guys. So during a lot of the bigger action scenes, there's some pretty intense hand-to-hand scuffles. It is very unbelievable, some of the people they're trying to fight against. Like, it's a little bit funny when there will be like a character that's like a 95-pound supermodel-looking woman, and she's just trying to run away from Tom Holland, and you can see him jogging after her. There is a little bit of the issue that you see him multiple times shirtless. This dude is huge. Like, even these bad guys, even the strongest ones, would probably get knocked out by one punch from Spidey. But I can kind of forgive that because I'm more interested in the general context of how this movie is going to unfold. Like, I feel like Uncharted is a very unique property to try and adapt to film. Because if you actually consider it, these games, this entire franchise has already been based on the idea of cinematography mixed with gameplay. Its chances to have Nathan Drake being drugged behind a truck and taking down a whole convoy with guns and chaos. It's weird to see a game series that's already been so good at being a movie getting turned directly into a movie. In some ways, I do feel like it is successful. This is a very, very, very fast-paced film. There's almost no real plot. I feel like that's one of the major issues I have with it, is that they just straight up go from chasing to chasing, puzzle to crazy conclusion. Like, there is very little chance to catch your breath. Now, before I decided to watch this movie, I replayed a bunch of all the Uncharted games, and they are very, very, very epic set-piece based games. But I feel like one of the things they managed to do is that whenever there is important dialogue, whenever they're trying to convey something about the story or the characters and stuff like that, what they typically do is have these forced walking sections. Throughout the game, there'll be chances where Sully is just talking to Nathan Drake about the upcoming job, or they're talking about their fears, just the cost of not succeeding at this current quest. The movie is so cutthroat, the movie is so breakneck pace that you do feel like you lose a lot of the character of who these people are supposed to be. Young Nathan Drake is not the most original concept. In fact, we've even seen young Nathan Drake in the games a couple times. So having that is not necessarily the problem. It's having young Nathan Drake combined with a very, very young Sully trying to just rush through a game. Like, that's what this felt like. A lot of times during the course of this movie, and I'm going to be avoiding spoilers, obviously, as I'm sure you can tell, it felt a lot like a video game if you're skipping like half the cutscenes. It's just people getting in fist fights, a couple people falling to their death, and then on to the next set piece, on to the next triumphant, crazy clash. I do want to say that one of the things that's very, very good about this movie is I do feel like a lot of times the places they're going to, it does have that Nathan Drake feel to it. Like, one of the things that's personally I've loved the most about the Uncharted franchise is that a lot of times it has that feeling like while you're witnessing them going to these far off tropical locales to try and find sunken treasure and lost pirate ships, they managed to feel this sense of wonder inside of it. They managed to feel like, holy heck, this is the first time anybody's witnessed this. Like, watching Nathan Drake solve this puzzle, crack these ancient clues, it feels like his excitement is your excitement. They nailed that aesthetic. Like, as much as I have some problems with this movie, when it actually comes to the times where they're trying to stare at dusty old maps or breaking into museums to try and figure out where they need to go next, that is when this movie is exceptionally fun. In general, I can't say that this is a boring movie, even if I do have some freaking issues with it. It stays exciting throughout it, but I feel like there's definitely better treasure movies. There's definitely better video game movies. It kind of makes me wonder what's going to come next. Now, part of the reason I watched this, to be honest, is that it feels like Sony is beginning this big initiative to try and turn all of their most popular video game series into television shows or films. Like, even during the beginning of this, they actually showed this strange logo that had like Aloy from Horizon. It had the God of War people. Like, it had, like, we already know they're working on like the Twisted Metal television show and stuff. This feels like Sony is really spinning up their gears to make stuff where they can make a popular movie into a game and then a popular game into a movie. So this being the first initiative, this being the first of this new series, I think it's a very, very good start. I think that's one of the things in this that I really appreciated the most is that a lot of times during the course, it really manages to build up a very, very smooth momentum, which sometimes can be very difficult to master. I watch a lot of movies, most specifically like horror stuff, but I appreciate when a movie manages to build up that pace. It doesn't just shift from crazy action scene to sitting down and talking. It always has this like nice build up. There is a growth at times where you can feel people getting ready. They're finding this next treasure. They're getting in that next fight. It always feels like it's almost preparing you. You can feel the oven preheating before that next crazy conflict. I do want to say, one of the weirdest decisions about this is that clearly I watched some interviews about like the directors and the actors talking about the Uncharted movie. Apparently they didn't want to have Nathan Drake use guns because obviously in the video game, Nathan Drake's blasting everybody. Like, he's not afraid to scoop up a machine gun off the ground and shoot 50-50 guys straight in the face, you know. But in this, Nathan Drake just accidentally murders everybody. Like, that's the weirdest part. Everybody just happens to be hanging out next to a cliff or delicately dangling off the edge of a freaking flying aircraft, and he just, oops, knocks him off. Like, make no mistake, Nathan Drake murders, like, probably 35 people with his bare hands in this movie, but it's all played as like this whimsical, almost Jackie Chan style goofiness of, oops, I murdered you. Oops, I picked up a sword and poked you up, you're dead. Like, everybody is very, very bloodless. My biggest issue with this movie, and I feel like it's something that very much harms the entire plot, the entire pacing. I don't want to do too much spoiler about this, but basically about halfway through the movie, the entire plot just totally changes. The villain switches over from one character who's been established to a completely random person who doesn't seem to have any motivations, any real function. It just feels like somebody basically says, hey, do you want to take over this movie? It feels like very, very, very poorly planned. It feels like they're trying to mimic several different Uncharted games at once. Like, as somebody who has beaten all these and really enjoys all these, they would take like the buffet of the Uncharted franchise. All right, let's take the auction house scene from Uncharted 3. All right, let's take some dangling puzzle solving scenes from Lost Legacy. Oh, let's take this talking tomb from freaking Golden Abyss. It feels like they just took these little slices of the series that are good. I mean, objectively, they are good, and then just haphazardly glued them together. Now, for the characters, that works. For the action, that works. For the settings, that works. The issue is when it comes to that villain. Having multiple villains that are not properly established makes it so that at the end of the day, I never really got scared for Nathan Drake. I never thought that anybody could possibly have anything happen. I know that even if they are falling out of airplanes and stuff like we saw in the trailer, they're all going to be perfectly fine. This is just a big, whimsical, Disney-style adventure, even if it doesn't directly involve Disney. I had a good time. I definitely would watch another one of this. I feel like I do wish I got a little bit more out of this. I wish it had a tiny bit more payoff, but I enjoyed the Easter eggs. I like the fact that they put in little nods to Naughty Dog and the original voice actors and stuff like that. It felt like something that was respectful for the fans, but also different. Even if there's parts of this that are bad, I think objectively they're not great, I can't hate the movie. I feel like they did the best that they possibly could have. But next time, maybe get somebody a bit older to play Nathan Drake, or I don't know, maybe wait until freaking Tom Holland gets a little bit of facial hair. My God. Well, these have just been some off-the-cuff thoughts talking about the Uncharted movie. Did you enjoy it? Have you watched it yet? I guess I'm uploading this today before the movie even comes out, so I guess nobody's seen it. Well, either way, I love you very much. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you could, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. Oh, yeah. Good. Easy. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.